Hey everybody, welcome back to Lending Leadership. I'm Rach and we've got Rin and Laurie Nelson here. Laurie is one of our top loan officers from the Pittsburgh area. And we're thrilled to pull up a seat at the table with her, ask her some really deep marketing questions, get to know her better. And Laurie, thanks so much for joining us.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me. You guys have been killing it with the podcast. So excited to be a participant.
It's been a lot of fun having our loan officers on. And we were, Rachael and I were talking before this one. We were really excited to start chatting with you and diving a little bit. I mean, you're one of our largest producers in the greater Pittsburgh area, Laurie, and you're really a leader in the space. But I think, Rachael and I were talking and we were curious, how did you get into this business? How did you get started? Give us some of the background on why mortgages.
Okay. So I'm going to take you way back before I get into this because I don't think many people know this about me. So time to share. When I was growing up, my parents were convinced I would be a lawyer. I was one to argue like crazy. I still think I'm always right. That's maybe part of why I do so well. So I went off to college. I went to UMass Amherst, and I ended up majoring in political economy, which is kind of a weird major, with the thought that I would move on to law school. And upon graduation, I was invited to spend the summer at Martha's Vineyard. That summer turned into about 4 years at the Cape, bartending and waitressing. And I'm sure my parents were about to die that my 4-year degree had kind of, I don't know. I'm one of those people that just didn't go back. I didn't go back to school, and I had a blast and I loved it. I mean, talk about building communication skills. I'm a people person. I love talking to people. I love hearing their stories. And it's not that like bartending translated into mortgage, but I then moved to Boston and was like, I had an aha moment, I think, on the Cape. It was like 4th of July. And of course, you're working every Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it hit me that I want to be the person that's getting waited on instead of the person waiting on everybody else. I was like, it's time for me to like go to the other side and stop, And so I back in the day, okay, this is the 1990s, you got a job with the want ads in the paper. Okay. That's how you did it. So I got the Sunday Globe, the Boston Globe, and started circling ads. And I ended up working as a salesperson at a Porsche and Audi dealership in Boston. And it was
that's cool.
I know. So I sold cars, and I was in my 20s, young 20s, mid 20s. I didn't know anything about what I was doing. I mean, I knew nothing. And they had me start on a Saturday morning. They were one of the only people that I got an interview with. So I just jumped on it. I didn't even really think about it. I was just like, this is a job. I'm going to do it. And I had my first sales meeting. It was 16 guys and me, most of them older. I was young. I remember I had to go shopping for a blazer. I didn't have any professional. I had nothing. And I cried the whole way home in the car. I just bawled. It was I faked it through that meeting, and everyone was sizing me up. And I was like, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done? And I sobbed. And for some reason, I kept going back. I hated it at first. It was really hard. I had to learn absolutely everything about these crazy cars. I mean, driving a 911 when you've never driven one before is actually really hard. The pedal's really heavy. And I studied my butt off, and I learned everything there was to know about these cars. And I ended up being one of the top salespeople in probably about 6 months. And I remember getting my W-2 that year. I never thought I could make that much money, but that was not my passion or my long-term career. But that is where I learned about credit, financing. I ended up doing some stuff in their finance department, which led me to analyzing credit and working on loans. Back then we got credit reports on a shiny fax paper. It would come back with X's and O's. I mean,
all paper.
It was all paper. I mean, the fax machine was a big deal. But what happened to me is that led me to another job as an independent leasing consultant. And I followed a boy to New York. And then I followed a boy to New York. That didn't work out. And he was moving to Michigan. And I was not doing that again. So I came to Pittsburgh and crashed on my sister's couch. I ended up, applying for a job in mortgage with my background. And 25 years later, here I am. I'm still in Pittsburgh. My family's in Pittsburgh. Like, this is where my life is now. So it was a little, wasn't like you grow up saying, I want to be a mortgage broker or I want to be a loan officer. But
I think there's so many, there's so much to learn from that. I feel like there's so many loan officers and people just in different categories and spaces where you have this vision of that you're going to go to college, you're going to climb this corporate ladder or whatever and take a step up each time. And you end up finding out, and this has been similar to my journey too, Laurie, so I can relate to that story. And you're just on this kind of zigzag path that goes in all these different directions, might get you into different, categories of business. But that's where you learn everything, right? And, also starting off in, just that story of you being in the room with 16 other male salespeople. I mean, that's an intimidating experience for a young woman. I mean, a lot of these financial categories, it's male dominated industries. And, you're a tough female who's, rose to the top. So that's a pretty cool story. And it makes a lot of sense how you started there and now knowing where you've come and where you are now.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
cool.
Yeah, it was, I felt like, someone once told me that if you can do that, you can do anything, because that's a really hard job. And in Massachusetts, they didn't have any laws about being closed on Sundays. So like, I'm crazy competitive. So I got every other Sunday off, but if you didn't come in, then you wouldn't like win the contest. So I was working like 7 days a week. So I guess I was born for this job. It's sort of 24/7. But that was like, I had zero experience doing that.
I think that's almost better sometimes, right? If you know what you're getting into, sometimes you're like, no, I'm not doing that. But if you just don't know, that's why in our youth, when we're just like, okay, I'll do it, I'll go for it.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're jumping into. So, but I want to back up because I think it's so interesting. I want to say that people who have been in sales are the most successful people have usually started out in the restaurant industry in some fashion, bartending, serving, because really at the end of the day, what we do is serving. So if you can talk to people, if you can strike up conversation about anything, I want to say that you're going to be successful in sales.
I mean, what I love about my job and what I think like everyone's like, well, what's your superpower? And what makes you different than someone else is like, I love talking to my buyers and my borrowers. I love it. I love asking them, like, why are they moving? Why do they like what they do? How did they start doing this? I mean, my typical conversation with someone who's looking to buy a house is not 5 or 10 minutes. It's a lot longer. And it's funny. I remember, because I've had all different leaders over the course of my 25-year career. And I remember someone who I really respect, him telling me like, you have to stop staying on the phone for so long. Like you need to put that all on your team. Stop having these long conversations. You're not going to hit your numbers if you don't like wrap it up, keep it tight, keep it that way. There's probably a little bit of truth to that. Like maybe I could do more business if I spent less time with people, but like, that's not who I am. And I think that, there's just so many different styles of, we call it sales, but connection. And they say women have more connectivity across their brains. Researchers have proven that. And I do think that makes me a better loan officer, like undoubtedly.
Yeah, I can see that. My husband's a software sales guy, Laurie, and he'll be on calls for half an hour. Next thing he's talking about the Yankees, he's talking about sports, he's talking about hobbies. And I'm like, how long has this call been? But he will relate to that. And to your point and to your story that sometimes that's just what feels natural. And that's how that style of selling, I shouldn't even say it's selling, connecting, consulting occurs. Right. And that's where you make those bonds and you build trust. And people want to buy from people that they like, know, and trust. So I feel like it all goes hand in hand. And that's a really important, story to share.
In terms of the connectivity and just the conversations I have, there are 3 women currently on my team. One's my processor, and Paige and Nicole. We've been together for like almost 7 years, us working together as a team. It took a long time. I think that this is, I hate to stereotype, but in my experience, being, I had a lot of trouble letting go of doing everything myself,
Sure.
because I felt like I'm the one that needs to talk to my clients all the time. I'm the one with all the experience. It's hard to let go of that. But if you do want to be successful and you do want to grow your business, you have to have a team, and you have to have a team that's going to work like you work.
Mhm.
So Nicole and Paige have worked with me for so long, and what they did, kind of just as I've moved a little bit more into them taking calls now as well as just me, is they'll listen to my calls. Like I'll tell someone like I have Nicole on the line. Is it okay if she listens to our conversation? And so they've heard how my style is never, what's your name? Where do you live? Where do you work? Like I just would never do that. It's always get to know the people a little bit. I think when you're financing a home, people are nervous before they talk to us.
Sure.
They're so nervous, and it's so personal. I mean, we see their bank statements. We see everything. So if you can get someone to relax a little bit before you dig into the details that you really need, number one, you're going to learn a little bit more about them. You're going to find out what their goals are, but it also makes them feel a lot more comfortable when you have to have, more detailed conversations about income and assets and even credit. I think I'm lucky to have two women that have been with me for so long that there's, nobody's better than the other person. Like we can all function with the same style. And that is really key, really key.
Well, I know that you are a big believer, and we say this all the time, Corinne, right? Your vibe attracts your tribe. I know that is something that you stand by and you live by. And I'm sure, not everybody's a fit for your team, and that's
For
okay.
sure.
But when you do find those people that you really connect with, that do want to learn from you, and that you can train, and you have your style, and that you really trust, that's marketing in itself, right? Because what
Sure.
is marketing? At the end of the day, marketing is making sure that your reputation walks through the door before you do, that you're getting your name out there, and bringing in more sales, right? And
For
how do you do
sure.
that? Making sure that you have a solid team is so huge. How long did it take
Right.
you to put this group together?
Years. It took years. I will say that, for any women in mortgage out there that's, maybe they're at I don't know, they're at a 10 million and they want to get to 25. There's always these magic numbers we have. There's like, the $5 million producer wants to get to 10, and the 10 wants to get to 20, and the 50 wants to get to 100. There's like, it's really hard to do without advocating for assistance. And I worked at a place where I went in with one assistant, and there were several male colleagues of mine that had two or three assistants, and we were all doing the same amount of production. I'll never forget the day I set up a meeting with, two people in leadership, and I pitched that I need a second assistant. And man, they said no. They said no. And I was pretty devastated. And then at first I was upset, and then I got mad. And then I was like, you know what? Then this is all on me, because if they're saying no, then I did not do my job presenting my case enough. I'm like, so this is up to me to change their minds. Like, maybe they had a good reason to say no, instead of blaming them, which I did for a day. I said, you know what? This is all on me. If I'm going to turn this around, then I need to be more convincing. And I spent about a week putting together a presentation, and I insisted that we talk again. And when I was done, they were speechless. I mean, there were no words, no words. I got my second assistant.
And you got your second assistant. Look at that.
I did. And, that's also years of experience. When I was a younger loan officer, maybe I just didn't have enough nerve, or I hadn't found my voice. But it can be really hard to advocate for yourself. to get support in especially a really big mortgage company. Like that's just, it's so important to do that and not to give up, because if I had given up, I probably would have had a completely different year. And then, the next year I negotiated a third assistant. So I actually had a bigger team. There was only one person, I think, where I used to work that had a team the size of mine. And he was, just killing it. But it took a lot of nerve and really planning. But
I think also finding your voice is really one of those tidbits in what you just said there, Laurie.
Yeah.
And I do agree with you that it can be challenging sometimes as a rising female in a male-dominated industry to find your voice. And you've really kind of nailed this space, and we can see from your experience where a lot of it comes from. But I guess my question is, like, what would be your advice to younger female loan officers who are really trying to get into this industry, have a passion for this industry? Now, having been through some cycles of this, what would be something that you would tell them, or some advice you would give to them, or maybe even something that you regret or a mistake that you made that you feel like you could share with them?
I think join a team. Get a good mentor and join a team. I think that when I first got into this business, I had absolutely no training. I mean, it was just total sink or swim. Sink or swim. I stuck it out, and obviously I did okay. But if I look back at the first handful of years, those were kind of refi years. I didn't approach. What's so funny now is, like, my favorite thing to do is to go into a real estate office and talk about mortgage. And I could do that all day long, every day. I love doing that. But when I first got into the business, I remember walking into a real estate office and literally turning around and walking back out. Like, I was completely terrified that I did not, I felt like I didn't have the knowledge and experience to be good enough to, like, march into this office. And it took me a while to switch from someone who did a lot of refis, because when I first got into the business, rates just started, like, every year they go down a little bit more. So it was like, it was a lot of refinances, and purchases to me were, like, kind of scary. I guess if I had joined maybe a team where I had a really good mentor and somebody who shows you, like, how to market, how to talk to people, someone who's double checking your work so that, when you submit a file, it doesn't fall apart, because there's, the guidelines in mortgage are just ridiculous. You could still probably screw up a guideline if you weren't careful. There's just all these weird little things between conventional purchase, FHA, VA, PHFA. You name it, and they change. So if you can't master all of that when you first get into the business. So what happens is you might put in a file you're really excited about, and then you find out, like, that it doesn't work, So I think joining a team is a great way to build your own career and just learn a lot. Like, get a mentor. And I love doing that too. Like, mentoring is really, really key. What else? Oh, Rachael, when you had asked me about, I love that quote. Your vibe attracts your tribe.
Your vibe attracts your tribe. So, yes, I say it all the time. I love that.
I love it too. Actually, a woman I used to work with is the one that kind of, like, I think she's the first person I heard say that to, and I'm like, that is, like, words to live by. But I think too, when I market, ideally I'm marketing not necessarily individuals. Like, those would be past clients that refer me business, right? And that's, obviously a huge part of my business, but a lot of my business does come from builders, realtors, and some financial advisors. And I think that the mistake that some loan officers make when they first get into this business is they want to go for, like, the big hitter agent. They see these big names on these lists, and they want to, like, go work with these top producers, when a lot of your best referral partners are going to be people that are really set on growing their business and might even be newer to the industry. Mm-hmm. And that's the realtor that's doing $2.5 million and wants to do $5 million or $5 million. If you want to grow your business, you need to partner up with other people that are really committed to growing their business, that are hungry, that are ready to go the extra mile. Because if you're not aligning yourself with someone who really wants to partner with you and grow together, I don't know if it's going to be as rewarding.
I really like that. And I just want to repeat that for our listeners because there's a lot of good nuggets in there, Laurie. And I haven't heard that one yet. So I'd love to point out things I haven't heard. But if you want to grow your business, partner with others that are trying to grow their business too. It's brilliant. It is easy to always focus on the shiniest, largest thing in the room instead of focusing on other people that might be at a level you're at or close to a level you're at, and you're all talking the same language. You're all communicating what's in common. And then you end up with this partner for life and you're growing year after year with them. And I can see how that makes a lot of sense and would make a lot of sense for a lot of loan officers. I want to stick on marketing for a minute because you touched upon it and we started kind of dipping our toe in it a little bit. But since this is the creative brief, we've got to cover something on marketing, and you do a lot of marketing and do a great job at it. I know you mentioned before, you've said this to me, that you feel like your marketing is more of a style than a routine. And I want to kind of dig into that a little bit. Tell us about your style and how your approach is to marketing in general.
I know that's a big question. And, you know, when I agreed to come on here, I thought, my gosh, like, I don't have, Dave Holland will kill me for saying this, but no, but like, I don't necessarily, I don't necessarily do the same thing every day, but I've had the same style for years. I think it's really important to go out into the real estate community and be really present and show up to any and all events possible. And when you walk around the room, you know, if there's an event with 100 realtors, I think some people think I got to get in there and need to talk to 25 people. Like, I need to get in there and talk to everybody, get my cards out, like, you know, let's go hit up as many people as possible. I do the opposite. I want to go and connect with a few people on a much different level, and instead of like a whole bunch of people. And I think the way you have thoughtful conversation with other people in the business, whether they work with you or not, I think it's important. Like, that's your reputation. Like, I want, there are so many amazing realtors in Pittsburgh that I feel like I know really well, and would pick up the phone and have conversations with them anytime. Their loyalty is with another lender. I appreciate that. I respect the loyalty. But I want to be the person that if they see my pre-approval come across on their listing, they're like, oh, thank God it's Laurie. Like, I'm so glad it's Laurie. So my marketing has also just been my reputation, how I carry myself, how I talk to other agents, how I want to be a resource and I'm not just asking for a referral and your buyers, but I'm also the person that's going to pick up the phone and help you through a tough situation that I'm not even involved in. And I've done that for 25 years. And I think that part of my marketing has been my reputation. So you want to be careful. Like, just because somebody is never going to give you business, that doesn't mean that you don't still want to connect with them. And you always want to be like your best self when you're out and about and communicating with anybody else in the industry, even your title companies. Like, I think that all of that carries a really long way. And it's also like experience. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've been around here for long enough that I feel like part of my marketing is my experience. I mean, I guess that's one facet. You're probably looking for something a little more. Oh,
I'm noticing a theme, you know, and it's that conversation, the reputation, yes, but the connection, obviously, I think is the theme of our show today.
Maybe.
And what I heard you say is that you go deeper, not wider. You know, people in sales, sometimes we want to cast this wide net, but sometimes it's very important to cast that deep net, because how many times, you just said it, you're at a networking event and you want to talk to everybody, but then you've had 20 not meaningful conversations, mini conversations that at the end of the day, no one's going to remember, versus if you can have 2 or 3 really good conversations. And when you do pick up the phone and call that person, they're going to remember the impact that you made on them. That's huge. That is huge.
So I've had loan officers say to me at events, like, because I just can't help it. We tend to gravitate together and start chit-chatting, from other companies. I can't talk to you. I need to go like make my rounds. I know so many other loan officers in Pittsburgh, and I feel like I have so much respect, and I have what I feel like are a lot of friendships and at least friendly acquaintances. Like, don't discount your relationships with other loan officers, because there's always going to be something that maybe you can do and they can, or they can do. And that is, we swap around business all the time. And if you're someone that took the time to have a really good conversation with someone that works at another company, they're probably going to think of you first if they need help with something. I think that's really important as well. So we talked a little bit about the vibe tribe analogy. Your vibe attracts your tribe. I am really thoughtful about who I approach to potentially be a referral partner with me. I think that, you need to align yourself with people that you feel like maybe have the same style as you. Let's face it, a lot of the realtors I work with are probably moms. They're probably women, obviously, if they're moms. Although I have some really, really amazing men that I have worked with for so many years. And what makes them so great is they are not the least bit fazed by the fact that my marketing is so targeted to other women. My events, like my big annual event is a Galentine's, and none of the realtors that I work with that are men, they could care less. Like that, they're not the least bit. They joke about like not being invited, but they don't, they're not going to stop working with me because I have this vibe out there on social media that is certainly probably more directed towards women. That's what I am. That's what I love. And I'm not going to change that. I've had people comment like, ooh, do you think like you're going to lose business because you're like talking about what women empowering women and supporting women? And I'm like, am I though? Really?
No.
Like,
no. It's really
if you're upset about that and you're not going to work with me, then you probably shouldn't work with me.
And we need more women empowering women. So I absolutely love that. I think it's so important to especially aspire younger women who are entering the workforce,
right?
And giving them tips and giving them advice and guidance and watching them shine. I feel passionate about it too, Laurie. So I think it's awesome.
It's funny, but when I tell a lot of women that are, Paige and I counted, I think we had like 185 loans between 23 and 24 that were just women on the loan. Mm-hmm. And what made us do that was we were thinking about how it was 1975 when women were first allowed to apply for credit without a man.
Without a man signing. Yep.
So 185 women, so all of these women, if they weren't married or had a dad, they wouldn't have even been able to buy a house. Like, can you even imagine what that would do to our business and our industry? So it is kind of cool when someone applies on their own, especially someone who's like going through a divorce, because we get a lot of that. And they're like, oh, I'm so nervous. This is the first time applying on my own. When I tell them that, I'm like, well, my whole team is women. We've got them. They've all been through all different stages of life. Me being the oldest, they let out a sigh, like, that's great. Can I say?
It's reassuring, and it allows people to.
It's just, I think we feel like a safe place. So, and I like that. That's really helpful.
Laurie, you've had a lot of success, right? That's no secret. You've talked about building a strong team. And I know recently you've had some of your largest years ever, which feel free to share any details you want. But my question is, aside from building a team, what would you say are one of the largest or first top one, top two largest thing that has really helped you to have such a successful sales year? So we covered team. What else? Give us a little bit more.
So I'm kind of funny. I don't think I'm the only person that does this, but every year, towards the end of the year, I think of a theme word for my year. And
this year,
what's this year?
It's this year's is a little boring. It's growth, because I really want to grow my team. I want to grow not just my team in numbers. Like, I'd really love someone that fits our vibe, male or female, to come join our team. And I also want like my team to always feel like they're growing in their roles. That's really important to me. I always want to know, like, what do you want to learn that you don't already do? I want to make sure they stay engaged. If you're doing the same thing every day, you'll lose engagement. So my style of leadership is pretty loose in terms of that. Like, I don't think I've ever gotten mad at anybody on my team that's worked for me. And we've all made mistakes. I make mistakes. We're not perfect. Never once, never, ever, ever have I gotten like mad at anyone on my team. And I think it's just because, like, if you make a mistake, you didn't do it on purpose, and you're probably going to not do it again. And that's how we learn in this industry. My most successful year was 2021, which is probably not a big secret. It was probably everybody's. That was when rates were 2.875. And it was a ton of refis. And I did like 80 million that year. And my word of the year was application, which was really pushing me out of my comfort zone. So again, hate to stereotype. So I'm going to say, I feel like as a woman in the mortgage industry for many years, I was so concerned with the process being perfect that I didn't always reach my potential with numbers. I wanted everything to go really perfectly. And I felt like I noticed some of the really successful men that I worked with were just firing in all the business and figuring out later how to close it. Like, who cares? We'll get it closed. Let's just hit the numbers. So my word for that year was application. And it was literally, I'm not kidding you. I told my manager, who was absolutely fantastic. He that year, every Friday, he would post how many applications we took that week, the whole company, how many applications. And nothing motivates me like a contest. So
okay. You do like contests. I'm getting that.
I love it. I love the competition. And every Friday he would post how many applications we took. And I just flipped a switch, and I was like determined to do one application a day, no matter what. I needed 7 by every Friday. And I had my teammate that year, he did not stay with me on the long haul. Poor guy probably needed sleep. I think I stressed him out. We were working like Thursday nights. We'd go real hard trying to get people to like commit to the refi, because I had to be at the top of that list on Friday. And I made it. There were a couple of us that were neck and neck, but when I saw that I could put in more applications than anybody else in the whole company, like I was like, I can't stop. So I went so hard that year. I closed 80 million at the end of the year. And this was before I got my second assistant. So it was brutal. At the end of the year, I thought the only thing that I want to not do next year is that. Like it was horrible, but I did it, and it was a success. But what I learned from that is that, there's got to be a balance. So my year for 2022, which was almost just as successful in a year where things were really down, like things took a huge turn that following year, was process. And I took a big step back, and I listened to my team. And what I wanted to do was create the perfect mortgage process. I wanted my clients to feel like this was the best transaction they've ever had from beginning to end. And I wanted to see that if I perfected that process, would I still hit the same numbers? Because I really think you need to do both. I mean, you don't have to do both, but like if you have a goal and you want to hit it, you got to hit it hard. So, and it was tough. Like I didn't have a lot of balance that year, and I did it. And the next year I wanted more balance. So I worked on the process, and I think we were almost as successful, but in just a more like in such a better way, just so much better. And then the year after that, it was follow-up, because I realized that I left business on the table by not following up as well. So like you need to, no matter how great you're doing in your business, I think you need to listen to your team, listen to your heart, listen to your clients, listen to your realtors. And you always need to do some revising, because what strategy works one year might not be the right strategy for next year. There's always going to be tweaking. And I think that our team I think we've got that down now. And now we want to grow. Like we want to grow. We want to bring someone else in and make it really special, and probably ready to hit some higher numbers again. I hope.
I think that's pretty cool, to see that journey of application to process to follow up to, I think there was probably one other one in there somewhere.
Was me.
Was you?
It was me. I last year I took more vacation and I spent more, this business is really, if you're not accessible evenings and weekends, you will lose business. So that's why I think being on a team, even if you're not ready to be a team lead, but you want to be on a team, then you don't have to work every weekend. We're gonna split that up for you so that you don't burn out. I burn out early on trying to be Superwoman, and I lost a lot of time with my family. Just in my drive, it was unstoppable. And what I learned as I grew through my business is that balance is really important. Sometimes you figure it out a little too late. But last year, I think we had a great year, and I spent a little bit more time doing stuff for me. So that was a win.
Well, and then this year it's about the growth and putting, and you never really leave any word behind. So you have those words that are along for the journey with you, but to make it that process and always leveling up. I'm a big believer in iron sharpens iron, and I guess that goes along with your vibe attracts your tribe, right? Making sure you surround yourself with the right people that will hold you accountable and keep you on that path of growth. So now that we know, and everybody at home listening knows that growth is the name of the game for the Laurie Nelson team this year. Who's out there? Who's out there? We got to find you some people that help grow your team and grow what you're doing. And this has been awesome. You really led us down a lot of different avenues, and I love that. That's what this is all about. It's not cookie cutter in our industry, really any sales industry, but especially in the mortgage industry, it cannot be cookie cutter.
I do feel like that the events, like my Galentine's event, is something that is special to the people that come. And it is not about, I don't talk about mortgages. It's no lunch and learn. It is literally like there's no structure. You show up, you mingle, you talk to other women, and it's really just like a treat. And, hopefully I can afford to grow that guest list, because there's always more people I would love to invite, but,
and you just had that, and it looked like such a great event.
It did. And that was like, it started as something smaller, like a luncheon, something a little bit smaller with a more intimate bunch of women. And I had a couple people bring friends and just say that felt really special to them. So, I guess that's going to be kind of my signature event each year. I think that experience brings calm, and it's so hard to work in this industry if you're not calm and if things are blowing up and it's just, I commend anybody that's new to the business that's doing it on their own, because it's tough and it's unforgiving. And if I could go back and tell my old self something, it would be like, calm down and slow down,
Sure. And it's good advice. Calm down and slow down.
A good friend of mine said once, they're loans, not lives,
Yeah. I like that.
I probably needed to adapt that in my earlier days. And now, like, what I love about my job is I feel so calm. Like it's a whole just different world when you've been doing it for 25 years.
Finding the marketing chaos, right?
It does though, but that spills into marketing. It spills into confidence. And, do I think I'm the best? I do. Like, when I sit down in front of someone, I truly believe like I'm the best. And that came with years of mistakes and growing and coaching and now confidence. And that's something that's hard to do on your own is all.
I love it. And I feel like if you hear the click clacking of heels, listeners, it is Team Laurie Nelson coming.
It used to be. Now
I really appreciated this, Laurie. Yeah. I think you did too. Rach, this was just great storytelling and great moments. And guys, we'd love for you guys to like, subscribe, share, and we'll have more good stuff coming at you. But thank you for joining us today on the Creative Brief with Team Laurie Nelson.
This was so fun. You two are the bomb too.